Well, when I'm out here in the stars, it's definitely time to have a look at the month ahead and see what the stars have in store for us. Well, all around the world, and certainly here in South Africa, pressure is beginning to mount. We've seen significant developments in international finance in the last week, and unfortunately, we've only seen the beginning of all of that. Over the last couple of weeks and the next few weeks, two major planetary shifts are happening in the sky when the planets Saturn and Pluto finally leave where they've been just for ages and start a whole new cycle of social and political change. In the case of Pluto, these are great big cycles. The last time it did such a thing was in 2008 when the financial crisis developed. And the next time it does such a thing is, of course, late March 2023. The rumblings we've seen through the American banks and into European banks over the last week are set to increase at least over the course of the next few weeks and months, and probably with a longer term effect. Certainly, the last of March and the month of April are going to be extremely challenging economically for the entire world. And we do see a lot of that energy here in South Africa's chart as well. Connected to that and all on our own bat, we've got an incredibly financially challenging time coming ahead, both in this month and in the longer term, in the couple of years ahead. There will be dramatic changes in the currency and in the stock market over this time. Things will be very volatile, and at times there'll be radical downturns, which could look like the bottom dropping out. So we've got to hang on to our hats. The effects are probably long lasting, but not necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying that there's some big crash coming as well. It doesn't look like a big crash, but certainly it looks very challenging, both in terms of actual financial resources and where we feel and find ourselves standing as a nation. The recent grey listing of our banks and so on has really shattered international confidence in us, and we are going to start seeing the effects of that over the course of the next month. Of course, we're also eventually going to see South Africa's birthday in April, which will only be late in the month, and I'll really be talking about that next month when I look at the month ahead for May, later in April. But certainly we are building towards our 29th birthday, and 29 is a year of difficult and dramatic change for a country and for a person. In South Africa's case, a lot of that is focused into 2024, which is an election year, as we know, and we are going to see major developments and changes in South Africa's life next year. I'll even say it now, a year ahead of the time. We're certainly going to see a change of government of some kind and changes in the country on a much larger scale than we've seen for years. We are going to shift and change and hopefully level up. And now in the year leading up to that, we're beginning to see the rumblings of changes that need to happen. Amazingly, it still looks like the president is still far behind the scenes, at least for now, although by the time our birthday does rock around, he will be coming out, and we will see next month some changes and developments happening in his life and his path. But for now, he's incredibly behind the scenes in the chart for March, April, and that is something as South Africans we've become used to. But in terms of the country itself, we can still see some developments happening all on their own. One such development might actually be in electricity, and let's call it the power industry, for a change from Eskom and the government's control over that as well. And there still look to be certain positive developments in that regard. As we know, and as we can clearly see in the next month, a lot of private companies and local governments are beginning to take control of the electricity situation themselves, lacking the input from national government. And this is going to actually have a positive effect. Not a dramatic effect, but things for the next month are looking a little bit more stable than we thought and might have been thinking, and do look promising. Nevertheless, There's no sign that the crisis is ending anytime soon. And in fact, by the time we get to later in April, the crisis is increasing from one extreme to the other, and things becoming very volatile all around. And that's why we see things like swinging from low stages like stage 3 suddenly reappearing on our schedules, and the forthcoming stage 8 soon to appear on our schedules. Things reflect everywhere in our world that are getting a little bit more chaotic. However, as usual, on the entertainment front, our artists are in the winning league, and that is only going to increase. In the next month or so, we're going to see South African artists once again heralded internationally in some way, and that's going to bring a lot of hope and positivity to the people, and reminds us of something else I've been talking about since the very beginning, and that is South Africans function best when we work from the grassroots, when we do things ourselves, rather than rely on government and leaders and all those other people who position themselves as representing and effecting change. And as history has proven, in this country it always works from the people up. So that's why when we see the people being celebrated rather than the government doing things that supposedly get acclaim, we're going to see the benefits coming to the people as well. In the past, change happened in this country through the arts, and that might be something we see developing more and more over the next month and couple of months as we start finding our voice and finding a way to express other than complaining and shouting and shutting down and marching in the streets. You know, marching in the streets is also a bit of a South African tradition, and that's bound to continue, but that doesn't look too big in the weeks ahead. Maybe the forthcoming march in this coming week is going to make South Africans fat full, sick and tired once and for all, and we're really going to be galvanized into making effective change, which certainly a national shutdown does not do at all. So it might register a process, but it's change that we want, and it's change that does lie in the hands of the people. And maybe that shutdown can inspire people to actually do something constructive and make change happen from inside. And in this case, it's through the arts, it's through our other expression, it's through getting our voices out that the ball starts rolling. And over the course of the next year, it's rolling to the point where 2024 is going to bring massive changes, started by an election, but who knows where it might take from there. So we're in a wrapping up year, we're in a letting go of old stuff kind of year that starts now as our birthday approaches. We have to deal with instability, which we'll see a lot of in this coming month and in April itself, but that will remind us it's shaking up the ground in preparation for massive changes that we can look forward to later on. Let's see what's happening for our own charts in the month ahead. Aries, it looks like you've been having a good time for the last little while. Fun, pleasure, love, all of those things have been all over your chart and continue to do so, although it must be said you're kind of at the end of a cycle as well. The new month which starts is the new astrological year beginning on the equinox date, which this year is tomorrow on the 20th, or actually 21st in South Africa by the time we get to our time zone. And that is also a time for beginnings for all of us, and especially for you. So what you need to do is kind of wrap up all the good times, not to end them, but just to get that inspiring you to go on to the next phase of good, solid, using your skills and your talents. So all this phase of love and pleasure inspires you, and now is the time to challenge yourself, to use your natural skills and abilities and use new things which have entered your life over this time. It's a boost of confidence and a boost of energy which has entered your chart. There is still a little bit of ambiguity going on in your relationships. There's something that needs to be sorted out, and there could be a problem of two people that you need to sort out where you stand and who's who and who you're with and all of those kind of things. But make sure your path is clear for your relationship, because there seems to be someone or something else niggling in the background. Time for a new path with a new equinox tomorrow. Go for it, Aries. Taurus, it looks like you've got a lot that needs to get done, and it might feel a bit like, oh, there's so much on my plate, I don't know what to do with this. But I must say, you're getting it done. And also, It's a lot of hard work, but there's a part of it that you really like and that you're really getting your teeth into. So this is a great month for the things that need that kind of level of commitment and energy. It's important to remember that you're in such a good phase for getting good results that it's worth all that hard work that it's going to require. Nevertheless, in both your working life and your personal life, later on in the month, there are going to be some changes that are required, and you're going to have to take either a calculated risk or a bit of a leap into the unknown in order to get those to happen. It's not necessarily so huge, but it's going to bring you something new, and it's going to be a necessary leap in that particular case as well. Nevertheless, the most important area is to ensure that you're benefiting from where you stand and where you've invested a lot of energy, especially in terms of other people and especially in terms of your relationships. There's also an opportunity for you to use skills or talents that might have been dormant for a long while, or might be something that you just don't think of as special. Why would the world want that? Well, they do. Why would that be useful? Turns out that it is. So do what you do best, do what you love best, and you'll have a great month. Gemini, all this action is something that you love, and in many areas of your life, that's going to work well, even in your working environment. But in your social environment, it could be too much of a good thing. It looks like there's a potential for conflict, and that's really just arising out of you trying to juggle too many people at the same time, or trying to juggle people and your schedule and everything else without making any obvious compromises. You can't just keep on committing yourself and saying I'll be there and saying I'll do that and saying it's cool when you're actually spreading yourself way too thin, and it looks like there might be some consequences because of that. So it's also time for clarity and for making sure that you're walking a single path when it comes to relationships and people as well, putting your energy and priorities where they belong. Right now, really, though, the priority needs to be on your important one-to-one relationships, which might be taking a bit of a hit because of your dissipated energy into all your other relationships. So focus on what's important and be aware that sometimes your enthusiasm and your impulsiveness can come across as a little bit too strong and it looks a little bit selfish. So make it clear that all this energy on other people is for their benefit just as much as yours. They can benefit from a relationship with you. Just put your energy in the right place. Cancerians, you're tuned in, you're sensitive, you're connected to all the people around you as usual, and for the most part, that is working well for you. In fact, you're tuned in such a way that you'll find people coming to you for help and needing your assistance in all sorts of things that are really going to challenge you to put up some good boundaries around that. So put up some good boundaries around that. But the real challenge here is that it kind of seems like everyone wants something from you at the moment, and that's really where your boundaries need to be, about where do I draw the line and who gets what. And you know, the best way to decide who gets what is to ask yourself, what am I getting in return? Not that you always have to get something in return, but just to keep yourself properly in balance. And why me? What do I get out of this? And all of those kind of things help you keep a good boundary, because as a Cancerian, the danger is you can get pushed so far that you suddenly snap and you get into poor me feelings and resentfulness and those kind of negative emotions. And in fact, your chart is in quite a positive emotional state. So it's also time to ask yourself the question, what can I get from them? And that both in your professional life and in your personal life is going to bring a lot in. In fact, in your professional life, if you need any help or resources or anything from anyone else, now is the time to ask, while your barriers are down, let the stuff come into you. Leo, you seem a little torn between right here and far out there. It looks like things are taking you far and wide. You might have the opportunities to travel at this time, which will be a great opportunity, or it might just be related to work and there's things coming from far, people coming from far away, and all these far off connections. These days, it might also mean you're doing a lot of work online, but all of that is really kind of in competition with the fact that you really need to be building up your home base right now. And that's what's really, really important. Leos, this is a time to rebuild and strengthen your roots in every way. That both means the physical location where you live, and it means your family as well. There could be stuff to sort out with the family. Perfect time to do it. This is when you can really get to the bottom of things and you can really benefit from some of what's going on in the family or some of who's in the family. In fact, your chart says you might not even realize there's gains and benefits to be had from home. So all the more reason to reconnect with people from the past, people in the family, places from the past, places in the family, and stop all that running around and wandering around. Bring it home, Leos. That's where the value lies this month. Virgos are also having a bit of a battle between two fronts this month, and for you, the battle is the good old work versus home thing. There's so much that needs to be done in your professional life and in your personal life at home that you're going to have to find a way to balance your energies better. In truth, the chart recommends the focus on home. Just like your next door neighbors, the Leos, this is a time of focusing and building and reconstructing some of your security, because it's all about security. In fact, in order for the professional goals to work better this month, you're going to need to re-establish some of your personal sense of security and just clarify back where you stand, where you know what's safe, what is all clear, so that you can venture into new territories in your professional life, because it's a great opportunity to do that. You might find work coming from new sources, new clients on the go. All of those are great opportunities, but it can get a little bit overwhelming, and it's going to tax your judgment and your decision-making process. So it's the building your roots and your sense of, I know where I stand at home, that is going to make you much more confident in the professional environment at this time. So make sure that you put your priorities at home and then walk into your working environment with the confidence of that. That's going to make it more likely to succeed. Libra, you'll find a lot of your efforts paying off this month. It's especially efforts with regards to people, both in the sense of establishing personal relationships or clearing up matters in personal relationships, as well as investment in people that you might have done because of your working world or working environment. It's a good time to be relying on others, and an even better time to be calling in some of the rewards and results that you expect from working with others. This is going to give you the opportunity to shine. So it's also a good month for delegating, Librans. You can't do everything yourself, and you shouldn't be doing everything yourself, even if you believe you're the only one who can do it. It looks like you need to get help at the moment, and maybe you also need to acknowledge that there's some skills that you yourself don't have. In order to fill that gap, the chart says look to unexpected sources. There are people who can enter your working life at this time who are not the usual ones, who might actually give a great opportunity for new outputs and new results. And even in your personal life, it's mixing with different people, and it's new people in your environment that are going to give you the opportunity to shine in ways you haven't done before, and to discover new skills and abilities that you might even have that haven't been there before. So put yourself on the line, take up the challenge, enjoy the fact that new people require new things of you, and find out for yourself what they are. Scorpio, being behind the scenes is the natural arena for you, so that's not a bad thing in and of itself. But it can make it very hard for people to read you, and right now in your personal life, that could be producing a problem. What seems fine for you, and is kind of, I don't know what the problem is, when you look at what your partners are complaining about, you may very well find the issue is that you're not really communicating effectively. On the one hand, you're challenged, don't be silent, and on the other hand, you're challenged, do be clear, because you've got quite a sharp communicative ability. You're often able to get right to the point, and sometimes step on a toe while you do. Where that is required, this is a great month for making it clear and getting your way. And in your professional life, that's going to work very well. But it's in that personal life where it looks like there can be some conflict, and verbal conflict arising out of argument or the clever manipulation of words. This is not a time to make changes in your personal environment. This is a time to try and bring some harmony to do that. And in order to do that, the best way to do it is to share your most private self with the ones that you love. And that's going to make the connection that doesn't require any words. Back in your working environment, that conflict leads you to win. So that's where you can enforce your point of view. Sagittarians, you really need to strike while the iron is hot. That's something that you can do because you're good at moving fast and going for it, and now is the time to do that. The equinox is kind of first thing on Tuesday morning, and you need to hit the ground running with new things. This is a great time to establish new foundations for new projects that are really going to thrive in the month ahead. So this is also a good time for things that require a little bit of luck in order for that to work. So go for the luck side of the story as well. Things where you need the odds to be in your favor, things where it looks like it's an impossible task, all of these are going to work the most successfully for you. In terms of the personal life, it does look like you need to just be a little bit aware that you could be coming across as a little bit brash or impersonal or uncaring. And of course, that's not what you really are. Your own sign, Sagittarius, is full of warmth, and this is a time where people can really feel it. But your partner might have the experience of you being all warm and wonderful to all of them, and what about me? So this is also a time to put some of that amazing, beautiful, warm energy that you've got right now into your personal life and let your relationships thrive because of it. You're on a winning streak, Sagittarius. Make sure that what you care about is what wins. Capricorn, you spent some time now over the last months and years sorting out your financial situation. Things are probably looking a lot more stable and a lot more secure there. You're on top of all the usual things that Capricorns easily get on top of, but there might be a missing area of your life, and of course that's in your personal life as well. So you need to go back and check that those relationships are working the way you want. Things are beginning to change over the month ahead, and both in relationships and possibly in other areas of your life, things that you've been sure of for quite some time, well, you can't be so sure of them anymore. This is a good time to re-look at relationships, reconnect with some people, or in some cases ask the question, is this really benefiting either of us? Where are we going with this? What could the case be? You might find yourself feeling a little bit more vulnerable than usual, and that usually gets you to get your defenses up and make unnecessary rules, regulations, and barriers when it comes to other people. Really, this is a time to be a little bit more open and a little bit more soft and a little bit more tuned in to the people around you. Things that you're actually very capable of doing, even though you often give the opposite impression by being all stern and businesslike and maintaining a poker face about everything. Now's the time to show your soft, receptive side, and you'll be in a win-win situation. Aquarius, it's also time for you to make a few adjustments. Things have been working well in this last period. Mostly you've been getting your way and things have been happening the way that you would expect them to go. Now you will find things are beginning to change. And in fact, that could even suit you. You are someone who's very connected to the people and the environment around you, and there'll be great opportunities to explore that a little bit further right now. What is important is for you to let go of some of your preconceived ideas about how to do that and what's going to work around that. We know that Aquarians are innovative and exciting and full of all sorts of new things, but what we often don't realize is that Aquarians can actually be quite fixed on how they see it and what new, etc. means to them, and them, that's you. So now's the time to really open yourself up to others a little bit. Open yourselves up to what the environment wants to tell you, the people want to tell you, and respond to that in some way. It's a time to be more responsive, not just full of great ideas. Although your great ideas are going to help a lot at the moment, and you're also going to find new opportunities to communicate them. But the challenge is you'll also need to find new ways to get your ideas into the world. So take the cue from the environment, take the cue from the new people around you, and you'll find all new ways to develop those great Aquarian ideals. Pisces, you're probably feeling a little overwhelmed at the moment. Things that have been due or that have been hiding in the background have suddenly brought themselves to the foreground, and suddenly you find there's a whole bunch of stuff on your plate that you don't want to deal with, or that has got to do with the past, or is just not the type of stuff that you're good at dealing with. For example, bureaucratic stuff and all those rules and regulations are just not your scene, but here they are in front of you now. You'll also find that people seem to want a lot of you at the moment. You might be feeling overwhelmed by people. Everyone wants a piece of you and everyone wants something from you. Pisces, your old lesson is back in full force, and that is the lesson of boundaries. It's really all about boundaries this month. Set them up big and strong, and make sure that you don't give away any part of yourself or any part of your resources. In your personal relationships, you'll really need to be tuned into your partner. You need to be there and hearing and sensitive, but you mustn't crumble and be oversensitive and make any sacrifices. Sacrifice is something that you naturally do, but it shouldn't really be for anything that doesn't benefit you, like your personal life and your spiritual life. In terms of how to get the balance back, home is where the heart is. Home is where your strength is. Just get back to what's important. Get back to basics. Clear out all the unnecessaries. Put some good boundaries up. Deal with some of that bureaucracy that needs to be done. And you've got a clear slate after.